Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Max Fry. I'm VP of Business Development at THG Energy Solutions. Today, as a part of THG's partnership with Urjanet, I'm going to be giving a brief presentation on demand response and several key metrics that help guide our approach to demand response technology and implementations. A quick note about THG and who we are. We provide energy management solutions and services to commercial and industrial customers and privately labeled solutions for our industry partners across the country. This includes our energy intelligence platform, as well as a suite of demand response technology and services. By definition, demand response is any adjustment to electricity usage in response to considerations on the grid. Historically, DR has been a niche field inside the industry that was leveraged primarily for grid reliability. As markets have evolved, applications for DR have as well, including programs and strategies built around economic indicators like wholesale prices, transmission and capacity cost avoidance, and other key indicators. Ultimately, demand response is a method to promote the alignment between supply and demand. There are important considerations on both sides. On the market side, you have things like grid conditions and constraints, resource and load forecasts, day ahead and real-time prices that serve as economic indicators. On the customer side of the equation, we have a completely different set of considerations, including basic things like facility and occupant comfort, asset integrity and operating schedules, as well as electricity contracts and tariffs that need to be considered. Practical demand response strategies and programs help bridge these gaps and connect the dots between opportunities in the market and flexibility from the customer side. An overarching theme for demand response stems back to opportunity cost and how a small percentage of hours represents a large portion of total costs. When we're working with customers, we'll commonly leverage these low duration curves to identify opportunities for demand management. The thesis of this analysis, again, is to show how a small percentage of hours can drive a large portion of total electricity costs. The question that this analysis helps address: what are the quantifiable savings for reducing my peak demand? Do those savings justify a change in operations? The example I'm showing you on this slide is of a cold storage customer that we serve. You can see that while their peak demand during this period is 8 megawatts, they are only above 7 megawatts for less than 10% of the hours. This implies that there could be some marginal benefit for demand management with adjustments made for only during a few hours of the month. Another example, an oil and gas operations company with its primary assets being pumping loads. Here you can see their peak is exaggerated even more than the last example, with approximately 5 megawatts or 25% of their demand stemming from less than 10% of the hours. Last but not least, a manufacturing site where we helped identify an unintentional overlap in their different operating lines. Eliminating this overlap during 6% of the hours of the month decreased their peak demand by over 40%. I only show you these examples to demonstrate again how a small percentage of hours of the month has the ability to drive a large portion of total costs. Let's use that same approach on the market side of the equation. So if you're a provider or supplier of electricity and are making decisions for your portfolio, shaving peak megawatts holds serious value. Benefits being that you can change the way you're hedging or purchasing generation, or if you're a utility, shaving peak megawatts might even give you the chance to defer on infrastructure or generation investments to later years. Using the broader ERCOT market as an example, the top 1% of the hours of the year in 2019 represented over 4,000 megawatts of peak demand, or 6% of the total peak load across ERCOT. In PJM, it's even more exaggerated. The top 1% of the hours represents 10% of the maximum system demand. You can see that the importance of targeting specific operating hours of the year change operational behavior. And in this case, shaving demand during the top 1% of the hours represents over 15,000 megawatts of additional capacity for the grid. Finally, let's use that same approach to evaluate opportunities on the cost saving side in the wholesale market. As you can imagine, we can use that same 1% rule to analyze the value of flexible load in various markets. And as an energy-only market with a very high ceiling for prices, the Texas ERCOT market provides a good example of what value resides in this 1% approach. From the beginning of 2019 through this current month of October 2020, over 30% of the total costs in terms of dollars per megawatt hour stem from less than 1% of the hours during the period. What opportunities does this volatility create for customers that have flexible loads? What are the implications for their suppliers? How might they price a deal differently knowing that that flexibility exists? How might that flexibility change the approach for procurement? All those are good questions and something that needs to be considered as customers adopt demand response more frequently. To use a direct case study, here's an example from this month of a price response customer we have in the North Zone of ERCOT. It's a pretty interesting use case. This customer is mining cryptocurrency. While I'll admit there are very few customers who have the ability to adjust this amount of load on a regular basis, this goes to show the real benefits of tying load flexibility to market indicators. This customer's average price for power was over 35% lower than the average wholesale price for electricity this month. That's pretty astonishing. When you combine what we talked about today with the traditional programs that exist, there's a lot of opportunities to monetize demand response. You can't forget about these established programs across the country and the opportunity they have to generate revenues for participants. Most programs can be done in combination with other demand side strategies like we discussed, which adds even more value for exploring this flexibility. Areas like California, Texas, the Midwest and PJM, New York, New England, all can provide compelling value propositions that can further maximize the value of demand response strategies. So in summary, there are three main takeaways here. One is that everything we learned today has multiple value streams for a variety of different stakeholders in the industry. Whether you're an end user, provider, consultant, utility, there's a lot to learn here about demand response and how it's going to continue to grow. Two is that there are many paths to monetize the flexibility through both legacy programs that generate revenues and provide reliability to the grid, as well as more tailored strategies that unlock savings and maybe even revenues through your supplier. And three, when it comes to mapping out potential for demand response, one of the things that we always encourage our customers to do is work with us and start at the asset level, building some parameters around opportunity cost of controls, then matching those opportunities in the market, rather than the other way around, we're having to force opportunities in the market down to the asset level. We think that that's the most practical and sustainable way to support demand response going forward. Thank you for your time today. We hope this information was helpful. If you'd like to learn more about demand response, how our solutions can create value, please reach out to set up a discussion. Thanks again and enjoy your day.